Hello, this is Jim Phillips with Remember Veteran Grave Markers. I recently did a program for the Toledo Lucas County Public Library System on identification of graves. This particular training is about identification of graves for the purpose of better understanding the markers that you're working with, and also being more comfortable going out and putting flags or wreaths out during Memorial Day or Wreaths Across America. So it's a very useful tool to have in knowing about veteran graves. So let's begin. Let's take a look at first is what Remember Veteran Grave Markers is about education and awareness. It's not about cleaning graves. It's about making and bringing sensitivity to the public about the need to remember, honor, and preserve our veterans' memories. So it's really up to us. So why clean graves? Well, it greatly for the purpose of remembering. We do it because we want to remember not only loved ones, but also those who have contributed to the success of our community and our society. So oftentimes veterans are the ones that are called on when needed, but forgotten about when things are good. So this is a time to be able to give back and say thanks. So let's start this out with something very simple. I want you to identify in this group of birds the swan. Find the swan. I'll give you a few moments on this. The importance of this, now I'm circling it for you. So I'm not asking for which one is the bird, I'm asking which one is the swan. If you go to a cemetery and you're looking for government headstones, they all look alike. All headstones that are government furnished headstones and grave markers look alike. There is not a whole variety of headstones. There are only two. They all look alike. And the same thing if you look at a swan. If I told you there's a swan and I showed you another picture, you would be able to better identify where the swan is because you have seen one. And now it's etched in your memory what a swan looks like. The same thing is true with government furnished headstones and grave markers. Is that once you've seen one and you've etched it in your memory, you can't unsee it. The next time you see one, you go, oh, that's a government headstone. That's a government headstone. That's not a government headstone because you know what one looks like. So that's important to have that distinguished piece. So right here, as you know, is the swan. Now, the nice thing about headstones that the government offers, the government furnished headstones, which you see there, is that they're all alike. You say, well, Jim, the one in the upper left, look different. They say, well, the only reason they're different is because they're not clean. All government headstones look like the one at the lower right. Over time, they get dirty and they need attention. But if you don't attend to them, they're going to continue to get worse. Now, if you notice the ones in the lower right, they're all white. Now, you can take a look at the ones in the upper left, and you'll see like here's one a little bit better, a little bit cleaner, there's one. So you can see that there is a difference, but these stones are exactly the same as the ones you see here. The only difference is somebody cares for them. Now, Remember Veteran Grave Markers does service all of Lucas County. We work everywhere from Swanton out to Jerusalem. Up near Berkey. So we go north, south, east, and west, in Lucas County. We don't go outside Lucas County because the charge of our nonprofit is to support the cemeteries and the citizens of Lucas County. We don't clean graves as a course of action. What we do is use cleaning of graves is to educate and bring awareness to the need for the public to do something. This is a public awareness small nonprofit that we have. So we serve all of this. Now, we have been on the news WTOL and 13 Action News. We've been on those. So it's kind of nice to see, as seen on TV, we've been there. A couple of things I want to show you here. Remember, they all are the same. Whether clean or dirty, they're the same. Look at the same. Clean or dirty. Clean or dirty, they're all the same configuration. Now, the stones that you're seeing right here are all historic headstones. You know that because of this shield. See this shield that go around here? The shield, the shield, the shield. All of those indicate historic headstones. That's something to be mindful of. Historic headstones are particularly and unique to government-furnished headstones, as they represent soldiers that have served from the Spanish-American War back. So really the late 1800s, 1898, and back into the Revolutionary War. These are the stones that you would see and the faces that you ought to see when you have a government-furnished headstone. So that's important. Now, I want to bring this to your attention because it's also something that people tend to forget about in regards to government or veterans. Oftentimes in our cemeteries, to identify a headstone, you have to first know where it's at. So you can't say this is a government headstone if you can't see it. If you can't see it. So the first thing to do is to really clean it off so that you can say, is that a government-furnished headstone? And once you clean it off, you can find out things about that grave marker, as the flat ones are, grave markers. You can identify that. So I just want to point out that the condition that you'll see are not all upright, but they're also flat. And flat usually takes the flat headstones, which are called the grave markers. Those are oftentimes overlooked because they tend to be they're laying on the ground and grass grows over them and eventually grows so much that you can't see it anymore. This is sad. So identification is extremely important. And then cleaning afterwards just brings these things back to a level of presentation which is respectable of their service. Now, I have Remember Veteran Grave Markers put together a book to help remember this and how to do it. So this is our how-to cleaning guide and identification guide. So be mindful of that. There are tools out there that you can use on this. So it's up to you. I follow this as a source of inspiration. It says, I am only one, but I'm still one. I cannot do everything, but I still could do something. And because I can't do everything, I will not refuse to do the something I can do. Recognizing here that the poet, the author here, Everett Hale, has said, as volunteers, we can do something, but I can't do everything. So you can't overburden yourself, but you can do something. So do something you can do. As it says in the last line, I will not refuse to do something that I can do. You just have to figure out what that is. Going back here, two types of markers. One is the headstone, it's upright, and then the other one is a grave marker, which is flat. We've seen those examples of it. Simple designs are the ones that I refer to in regards to the swan image. The government-furnished grave markers are all those look alike. And the grave markers all look alike as well for government-furnished markers. The complex ones tend to look like monuments or look like ornate headstones or grave markers, and those are private. So we have really two groups that we're going to be looking at. Common materials that you'll see in markers would be granite, sandstone, marble, bronze. The ones that used by the government are granite, marble, bronze, with the predominance of marble and granite, but bronze is becoming more popular in regards to grave markers. Okay, we're going to take a look at two things. One is the government-furnished grave marker, headstone, and then second, we'll go back to the private markers to give you some heads up on how to work through that. Let's take a look at the government-furnished one first. It's important, let me go back. It's important to note that on a government-furnished headstone or grave marker, there will be common pieces of information that will be on the stone or the marker. This is common throughout the whole government, or how all veterans receiving these markers will have some or all of this. The earlier the markers are, such as the historic headstones, they'll have a very little information. Contemporary headstones and markers will have a great deal of information. So that can be a distinguishing factor on how old they are. Historic headstones, again, if you look at 1903 and earlier, that's when those headstones have been created for the purpose of recognizing veterans of that era. Let's take a look here. This is a historic headstone. You can tell, take a look at the shield. You take a look at the raised lettering. That indicates a historic headstone. Now here, at the bottom here, the dates, those are added outside of the historic headstone piece. And the reason is that from a truly historic headstone standpoint, they didn't add dates. So dates can be added, afterward by whoever the cemetery is, and whoever can put that in. But that's generally not added. So everything that's here is what's called bas relief. Notice the lettering and how it's set up. Now let's take a look at more contemporary. These are the contemporary headstones that are used at federal cemeteries and also public cemeteries, such as the ones we have in Lucas County. Now, these are all my family, my dad, my mom, and my brother. They all have not only information about themselves, and then finally down at the bottom, they'll have really information about how the family sees them. Like over here, doc, father, mentor, husband, Navy wife, a higher calling, and uncle, doctor, scholar, brother for Mark. But these are the kind of things that have been added really since the 80s, have been added to headstones to make the headstones a little more personal to the family. Because once the person's gone, these are remembrances for families to come out and visit. So that's important to know where they come from and what's included. The dates that are on there, those are included later. However, the common stuff that you see above, the names and the events that they were participated in, would be included. Let's take a look here. These are a variety of different types of headstones over the years. With the exception of the one right here, those are all marble. The last one would be granite. This is an earlier headstone just after the historic headstone. This would come into play. Then this one is not a historic headstone. It's a historic headstone replacement. A while back, the VA had opted for this design, but had changed later on because I imagine people are complaining because the old headstone design of a bas relief shield was so distinguished that I said, oh, why take the cheap imitation? But it's still evident that this is a historic headstone. Over here we have the Medal of Honor, Congressional Medal of Honor here, and these here represent faiths. You notice this one does not include that because it wasn't until the current design of the headstone, which was like 1919, that the addition of a marker like this, a religious marker, would have been added. So that's important to know. So just more information. Take a look here. Now we're going to be entering in the world of the private cemeteries. This is important because because you're looking at private grave markers, headstones, and monuments, you're looking for keywords or phrases that indicate military service or information. So, for example, a military rank, trigger. Military service, Navy, Army, Air Force, trigger. Military conflict, Civil War, Vietnam War, World War II, World War I, etc., trigger. There's other things such as maybe medallions like a flying cross or a military unit medallion or a military service medallion would also indicate a veteran. So these are all triggers to let you know that this may be a veteran. Now, that would be when you have veterans that have private headstones. This is applicable to private headstones. If you have a government furnished headstone, you know that they're a veteran. That's the SWAN. These are the ones you don't know. How do you know? You find these things out, and they should be on the headstone. So you take a look here. For example, Lieutenant Craig. Lieutenant, yes. Medal of Honor recipient, yes. Where he died, yes. Sergeant Walla over here died in Sicily. Here's his unit, Sergeant. Benjamin, his brother, died off the coast of China. Missing in action, Torpedo Squadron. Well, again, veteran. Here, Anthony Getz, Company B, 58th Pennsylvania Volunteer Infantry. That's a guy who served, most likely in the Civil War. Now, that's a private headstone. So notice that, well, why doesn't he have a regular one? I said, because the family did not want that. So the family gets what they want. Now, I just want to bring to your attention, over here on the Walla Cemetery, on the cenotaph, their monument has, notice this, is that they have little stickers on there indicating veteran. I don't particularly, I'm not a fan of that, only because I think it detracts from the overall beauty of the stone. But sometimes it is necessary. But in this case here, I'd say it's redundant, because why put a veteran sticker if you already see their rank and their unit? To me, it just defaces that particular stone. Let's go to another. Here, the Budai one also has a sticker, and yet it still has the rank. It has a unit they were with. It has a flying cross. It also has a memory of. So this indicates that this is a veteran, and yet they still put a sticker on there. But it is something that, again, we know it's that because they have those markings. You take a look over at Captain Edward Gillian. His unit, his title, those two are indicators of military service. Lieutenant Barry. Lieutenant Barry has a sticker, but I would say, is it necessary? Because the likelihood of knowing he's a veteran, you could tell because he's got his rank. He's got a flying cross here, or flying cross. So he's got something. So this guy, just as an aside, died in action. These guys died there. Take a look at the period of time. This one here, up in the upper left, Joshua Sinclair, he doesn't have any markings on it. So there's absolutely no way you're going to know he's a veteran. And the only reason I know he's a veteran is because I was looking for Revolutionary War veterans in Lucas County, and I found out this guy was one of them. He has a flag, probably does indicate that he's a veteran, but there's nothing outside of this stone that would suggest he is a veteran. And I would probably say there's no indicator such as a little star or badge on here indicating he's a veteran. So you have to know it. These are the kind of cases you hope that if somebody knows that, maybe something can be put there, like a Sons of the American Revolution could put a medallion here saying, hey, this is an American revolutionary patriot, or Daughters of the American Revolution. That would be a good thing to do. So all these things come in different sizes. This here, if you look at it, that's about 1.5 inches thick. So the stone that's it's on has not only been etched, but also been broken, as you can see from the crack down at the bottom here. So it's taken some beatings. Let's take a look at another one. Rafferty up here, got a little sticker, but there's nothing on the stone indicating he's a veteran. So someone mentioned that he's a veteran, and they marked it. This one here also has a mark here, but if you take a look at the name, right down here it says private. So it has the gentleman's name, his rank here. So the rank tells you something. You go over here to this monument, you see General Fuller. General Fuller has his title, but also he has a government furnished grave marker right here. Government furnished grave marker, and that indicates general. So oftentimes places will allow a family to put 2 markers for the same thing. Here, this looks like a government furnished grave marker, and yet it's not. And the reason I would say it's not is because the government markers would not have this or this or this or this. And there would be, it would not necessarily be in this configuration. But still, it looks good. It recognizes this person as a veteran. You should be able to identify that easily. This one here, Baranowski, how do you know he's a veteran? Well, because of this little round thing here, that little flag. Now, the VA puts 3 versions of this out, like a 1-inch one, 2-inch one, and a 3-inch one. I think they opted for the 1-inch one, which is the smallest one you can put on a grave marker, and they attached it so that this person, so if you look at it, you know what to look for. Yep, you can say that's a veteran. If you did not know that, you would not really guess. You say, what the heck is that? I don't know. Okay, on to some more. Let's take a look at here. What we're going to take a look at Mr. Langendorfer, veteran Langendorfer. He's taken a bronze plaque and applied it to the family monument. So that's pretty common way that they've handled this over the course of the past 20 years. Added the bronze plaque, which is generally a grave marker, and applied it to the back or front of a family monument. It's a nice little addition. Over to the right, we have the 67th Regiment OVI. So, how do you know that this guy's a veteran? Because they identify his unit. They don't say rank. They don't say when he served. They just say they identify his unit. That's enough to identify as a veteran. This one here, you say, well, how's this guy identified as a veteran? Well, on the headstone or the grave marker, it shows nothing. But if you look in the corner, you see a headstone that's buried. This is a historic headstone. So most likely, I can't say with 100% assurance, but most likely that headstone belongs to this guy. That headstone, this guy. Same thing with this one. But the nice thing about Berg is that what's on here is also right here. So, I mean, it's nice to have that because I think it's an elegant stone, but he has all that information right here also. Plus dates, which this normal headstone, the government furnished headstone, would not have. Let's go on to something else. Let's take a look at some grave markers. These are all different types of grave markers. Both of these are bronze markers at the top. This one's marble. This one's granite. Those, apart from need to be cleaned or trimmed, these are what you would normally find. Now, these are government furnished markers. There are other non-government furnished markers, as I had shown you earlier. But these, I wanted to show you these, particularly when you start looking at the bronze one. If you see one that looks green, let it go. It's supposed to be green. You're not supposed to paint it over. It's supposed to be green because that's the distinguished look of bronze. You see that here is this is what it should look like. This is what oftentimes happens. This is the current style that the government uses for government furnished grave markers for bronze markers. Notice the has the edging, and also it has more of a coating that's on there. Over time, that coating does wear, and with poor cleaning techniques, it can get scratched and look pretty ugly. I do find this particularly upsetting when somebody puts a sticker like this on this. It just tells me that they're not paying attention, that how can you not know this person is a veteran by all the information that's there? United States Air Force, Korea. How do you not know that? And yet they put a sticker on there to help someone read that. Remember, all these things are the same. It's this is a new design, but it's the same stuff. And yet you can't remember that this is a government one, so you have to deface it with a sticker. Only put a sticker on something you absolutely cannot identify with and have approval from the cemetery to do so. Okay, so which one is the VW? Now, we've looked at the swan. We know that. One swan amongst all those. But what's the VW? Can you find them? I'll give you at least a couple hints. Okay, well, let's just even do this. 1, 2, and one can even argue somewhere in there, perhaps even let's say a Carmen Ghia or something in there. Someone had mentioned maybe even a SUV type, but we could just at least say this one and this one for sure. Why is this important? Because private headstones are like this. They come in a variety of different shapes and sizes. They all have different information. But for one to be a veteran, they have to have the same thing. For example, all vehicles, this one and this one, are VWs. They will have the same information. They'll have 4 wheels. They'll have a steering wheel. They'll have a front and a back. They'll have something. Now, granted, you could say that about all of these, but when the similarities between the veterans and everyone else. So these will have specific information that's unique to them because they are VWs. Important. That's an important thing to be mindful of. Remember that. So attention to detail is important. Know that there's a common configuration, design, and layout. All stinking important. All important. So if we took all the information off in front of these and just left blank stone, they would all look alike. Absolutely all of them. So, last couple things. Have fun when doing this. When you go out there, test your skills. Go out, look, test. Find out, develop the skill of being able to find them in a cemetery. Talk to the veteran. Say, okay, when did you serve? What battles did you see? Did you have any family in the area? Did you have any wife and children? And then ponder about what his or her life might have been should she have not died in battle. Ascertain if they died during their service and what they left behind. And then finally, remember, be mindful that your visit may have been the first visit in a very long time to that veteran. And you can tell that by the condition of the stone being dirty and covered with moss and stuff. So be mindful of that. Now, this program is made possible by the support of Lucas County Public Library. Remember, Veteran Grave Markers is a 501c3 public charity educating the citizens of Lucas County. We want to thank you very much for taking the time and listening to this and learning about what this stuff is about. I hope that you find it interesting and that inspires you to go out and do something at a local cemetery. I'd like to think that we have an obligation to the past to remember so that we don't make the same mistakes, but we also can celebrate the lives that had been sacrificed and for our liberties. So remember that as you think about, putting flags out at Memorial Day or wreaths out during Wreaths Across America. people gave something for us to remember. Take care. God bless. Until next time. Remember to like, subscribe, and share this video. It is important because the information that we share today is stuff that you want to be able to share with your loved ones and with people that want to know more about their heritage. Take care. God bless. Until next time, this is Jim Phillips, out.